you're good to go.
Good to go.
All right. Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to the Talk to Danielle podcast. I am your host, Danielle C. Baker. And before we get started, be sure to like, follow, and subscribe to whichever channel you're listening or watching from. And of course, this is season 4. So I do invite you to have a look at the previous 3 seasons. There may be some topics there that resonate with your reality today. They are timeless. So you can go and have a look and see some of the guests that I had on in the previous seasons. We're going to jump right into this. This is a topic I think I need right now. This is something where I need regularly. I'm on fire for a while and then I just drop off a cliff and then I gotta rebuild. So we're gonna be talking about time management. I have the amazing Jill Wright with me today. I just love the way that Jill works. We got a chance to meet at an event that she was hosting, Sip and Connect. I think it was last year. Time has gone by so fast, but we're gonna have her on to help us to see how we can feel like we're in control of our time. And I'll just put the spotlight on you, Jill. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate you coming on.
It's my total pleasure. Thank you for having me. This is such an important topic that most of us are like, yeah, it's not sexy to talk about time management. So we're just gonna like put it to the side and none of us really get taught. And so I like to come at it from a bit of a different lens to make it exciting again and make it feel personal and relevant. So yeah, I'll give you a bit of the scoop of who I am and
Mhm.
why I talk about this. I am a mom of four. I am a business owner, and I am someone who has always been multi-passionate and curious about learning. And so even before self-help was like an acceptable, cool thing to do, I was reading the books and doing the research and going to therapy and doing all the things to try to figure out like, how can I continue to grow and learn about myself? I love a personality quiz, tell me about me. I want the frameworks. I want to learn. And so I kind of fell naturally into the niche, if you will, of time management as I became a parent because if we remember back to the pandemic days, that's when I first tried to become an entrepreneur. I quit my job in
Mhm.
hospitality. I was in hotels and event planning for many years. Then I had the two babies at home and decided I didn't want to go back to working nights and weekends and
Yeah.
put my business school skills to use. And so I started a consignment store and I didn't think at that time that I was signing leases and incorporating and all of that, that a global pandemic was going to come and wreck the retail world, but it did. So my first venture into entrepreneurship didn't pan out the way I expected, but it taught me a lot about what work I actually wanted to be doing with women and with parents because so much of my experience in that retail world was people coming in, grabbing a coffee, having a chat, talking, and I would get to talk with them about all areas of their life. And we did a lot of like outreach and support in the community. And I just really wanted to help other people when it came down to
Yeah.
it. And so I started my podcast right around the same time you did. I think I'm in my fifth year now.
Mhm.
And it started sharing what worked for me as a working mom, trying to do it all, like balance the business. The daycares were all closed, right? So we couldn't send our kids in. And if we could, we needed a COVID test. And 10 days later, it was crazy.
Yeah.
And I was doing it mostly all solo parenting because my husband at the time worked still. He was able to go into work. And I just
Mhm.
wasn't willing really to give up on my dream of being a business owner and having that piece of myself represented in the world or give up on being a great mom and being present with my kids. And it was really overwhelming. And so I leaned heavily into routines, habits, productivity, all the things I could learn about how can I fit all this stuff into life. But I realized pretty quick that all the stuff that you can find in books is really
Yeah.
geared towards men and non-parents. And it was hard. It was really hard to incorporate in my life as a working parent. But instead of feeling distraught on that, I decided to just find ways to tweak it and
Mhm.
how to make it work for me. So that's what I started sharing on the podcast. And the podcast has now turned into a full business where I support women and moms who usually are like high performing people who want to do a lot of different things. How do we manage that? How do we look at our time in a way that feels a little bit more spacious instead of crunchy all the time? And how do we bring a more feminine lens into this really masculine topic? So that's kind of the work that I do right now.
I just love that. And you're just preaching to the choir, I think, on this because you're so right that we're still very much, although the pandemic did help in us reevaluating where we were spending our time, but now that people want to go back to what we so-called back to normal. I don't think that we should because you're right. It is, we're still in that productivity trap. Whereas this, we're constantly need to be on the go. We're supposed to be doing something and we're sitting down and thinking about all the things that we should be doing. It takes up a lot of space. And so I think I love that you create this space for women to be able to say, hey, I can't function like that. Like something needs, nobody else can function like this. So how can we create that? How does that look for you in terms of how do you start if I'd be one of those mothers coming in to say, I don't have a second left in the day. Like how do I do this? How do you help when you have somebody overwhelmed like me coming in to say, please chill, work your magic?
Right?
How do
Where do
you
we
do that?
start?
Exactly.
Yeah, and I like that you use that word magic because that's a word I weave in all the time. The framework that I kind of use when I'm working with clients is called time magic. So yes, one piece of time magic is productivity, but we
Mhm.
also talk about self-care and we also talk about rest. And those three things, if you can imagine them kind of in a Venn diagram with like the three bubbles, right? And they overlap in the middle, that middle spot where we're considering our productivity, our rest, and our self-care, that's to me time magic. And that's where we're trying to get to this sort of space and time where it doesn't feel, it might still feel busy and it might still feel stressful because that's the reality of our lives. We're not, the magic is not that I can take that away. The magic is where we can step away from the feeling of being overwhelmed, of drowning in our lives, of not enjoying as we
Mhm.
move through these busy seasons. Because let's face it, we all have busy seasons, we all have very full lives, and we all only have 24 hours in a day. So we do need to make choices, right? Um,
Right.
and where we start is actually the same place you start. It's values. It's okay, what at the end of the day is important to us in how we experience our life? What are the values that we want to live? And taking a really critical, sometimes brutal look at are those represented on our calendar? Are we actually scheduling and spending our time on things that we value? Or is our entire calendar being taken up by other people's priorities, other people's values, obligations that we feel are non negotiable and like a true obligation, but are they really? And so the work is very much mindset related at the beginning to understand like, oh, what do I want? What do I want it to feel like? How do I want to flow through time? What is important to me? And once we know that, then we can get into the tools and the tactics and like the tricks and the tips and all the things. But it really
Yeah.
starts with getting curious about what is your life to you? What do you want it to be like?
Right. It's so important. And like you said, the rest is I don't think self-care, in my personal experiences, self-care is just another to-do task if you don't have the rest in there, right?
Yeah.
Uh, Self-care is not rest. It's completely different. And I love that you separate that in your framework. It is
Yeah.
just that it is, yeah, it's so important because a lot of people confuse rest, resting at the spa for the day, but if your mind is still going about the laundry, that's what you need to pick up so and so at that time. You need to factor in traffic. You need to it goes, you're not
Yes.
resting. You're not, and it's
No.
not, yeah. So I
And
just love it.
each of our rests looks different too. Like some people need to rest through busy work to quiet their brain. Other people just need quiet. Like it really does get personal. And a visual I really like to share with people about rest and self-care, because I know you're visual too. So this hopefully will land with you and some of the listeners too. If you could picture like a cup, rest is what gets you to your baseline of feeling okay. Like all the different
Mm,
seven types of rest that Sandra Dalton Smith talks about, like there's many different types. It's not just physical rest, right? We have emotional rest, we have spiritual rest, creative rest, all those. Rest gets us to our baseline of feeling like we're capable of getting through our day.
right.
Self-care is the stuff that we do on top of that. Right? Self-care is the cherry on top, is the icing on the cake, if you will, but it's you can't truly nourish yourself until you're rested. So it's like the foundational stuff is the rest, and then the extra is the self-care. And we need to really prioritize rest first, and it needs to be personalized to our own preferences and situation.
Yes. And it's not just physical rest, because again, when you were saying a lot of the self-care stuff or productivity things is really male dominated in terms of as women we need that mental rest. So what does that look to you? I know I was in that situation where I couldn't even answer that question. It's just constant noise. And so yeah, it's so I love that analogy. I love because this is also why I resonate so much with your work is because of the visuals. Can you explain to us, because when I first heard you say that term, I don't know. It's just like I was just happy. I was just like, ooh, it just changed my day. But glimmers, can you talk to us a little bit about glimmers? I know that my audience will appreciate that.
Glimmers is so fun. It's not a term that I made up, sadly. I use it in my planner. It is a practice to, okay. So a glimmer is kind of the opposite of a trigger. A glimmer is like a small moment that brings you joy instead of like something that triggers your nervous system in a negative way. It can trigger your nervous system in a really positive way. It can regulate you, can bring you joy, positive emotions, right? And they're fleeting, but they're happening all the time. These little moments, like catching a sunset or, sharing a wink with your kid or noticing that they did something kind or that you got to drink your whole cup of coffee hot or whatever it is for you. These joyful moments that nourish us, they happen all day, every day, but we don't notice them because we're so busy, right? And so for me, a beautiful practice that I incorporate in my weekly planning strategy is write down throughout the week these glimmers. And
Mm,
you'll start the part of your brain that helps you filter information, the reticular activating system. You can train it to look for more glimmers. So when you start, it might feel really clunky and hard to figure out, oh, what were the good things? I didn't have any today. But once you get in the practice and you tell your brain, oh, I'm looking for these things, your brain is like, great, let me show you more of these things that are already happening. And so recording them does two things. It trains the brain to look for more, because it's really important. It's like a gratitude practice, essentially, too,
mm,
right? But B, as you go through and read all of these beautiful glimmers, I like to go through once a month and sort of consolidate the previous 4 weeks into a journal entries. Like all these beautiful things happened. You get to relive the emotion of doing that, of having that experience. And so, not only are you experiencing them in the moment because you're now aware and looking for them, but if you have a practice once a month of doing a journal or verbal, whatever, it doesn't have to be written down, you can re-experience that emotion. It's a really powerful way to add some positivity in to your day.
mm. I love that.
Mhm.
It's just so beautiful. The word itself is beautiful, and that's why I loved it. Because when you said the opposite of a trigger, when we hear the word trigger, I think it triggers us. It has that impact. So the glimmer does the exact same thing, just on the other side. I love it. Just to be on the terms, and then I'll move on to your work. But you also have the time confetti that I just love. Can you explain that a little bit as well?
It's one of my favorite things to talk about. There is a researcher named Bridget Schulte who sort of coined this term in her book, and I came across it. And it's not something she talks about much, but I kind of latched on. I was like, "Whoa, this is something really special." The idea of time confetti is these moments, these pockets of time throughout our day of quote leisure time where we don't have an obligation. But they happen instead of like in a 1 hour chunk, they happen in pockets of 5 or 10 minutes, 2 minutes here, 3 minutes there throughout our day. And so the conversation, if you Google time confetti, the conversation is often quite negative, like, oh, time confetti is stealing our leisure time. We can't
Mm,
possibly do anything in these small pockets. And I instead saw an opportunity and I said, well, wait a minute, what if we use these small moments intentionally to bring in either self-care or bring in glimmers? Like you can plan a glimmer. It doesn't have to happen just out of the blue. You can plan these things. You can use your time confetti intentionally. First step is noticing when it happens. Because we often, what do? We pick up our phone. Actually, the sticker on my phone here, it's like a picture of confetti and it says use wisely. So for
Oh,
me, when I pick up my phone in time confetti, I'm like, no, no, there's something else I can be doing here. Time confetti happens when your food is heating in the microwave, when you're pumping gas, when you arrive a few minutes early to your kid's school pickup, or you're waiting on hold to make that doctor's appointment. They're naturally everywhere. And instead of wasting the moment trying to figure out what to do with it, it can be helpful to have a predetermined list on your phone or something what do I do
Mm.
with these 3 minutes? Do I do some deep breathing? Do I voice note a friend? Do I practice my Duolingo for a lesson? Like, what is important to me that I can be doing in these moments so that they don't feel wasted?
I actually experienced that today. Earlier, we were meeting on your Zoom call, and when they say the host is on, they'll let you in, and it's you actually have it on your Zoom to say enjoy this time. I forget the exact words, but it's just like take advantage of this time confetti as you wait, and it really that's when I realized how powerful that is, because I was thinking, okay, I can wait, I could just prepare for the next meeting, and then I said, no, I'm gonna stop, take a drink of water, just enjoy the time. It's,
Yes, we need to
it's
claim
that
it.
it's yeah, it's just that easy. That's beautiful. And then when it's a muscle, right? So once you start getting used to noticing these little time gaps where you can just stop for a second and make it adds up. It adds up
Mhm.
at the end of the day. I love it. I wanted to, before we get into the work that you do, I wanted to ask you, because I think that's one of the realities, especially with my audience, is we're so programmed, by the hour, time blocking, all of that. Once we start taking an inventory of where our time is being wasted in a sense, there is a guilt when it comes to certain activities that the kids might want to do where you realize you just don't have the capacity to do it at that time. So that guilt of saying no, or that the guilt of turning something down, but at the same time you're showing to your children what it's like to take care of yourself and to find that rest. So can you give us a little bit of wisdom on how can we work with this inner guilt that we feel sometimes when we have to say no to our children or no to an activity that would have been fun?
Yeah, and even activities for ourselves, right? Like we're so
Mhm.
busy. We often are saying yes to things that we feel like we need to do or we feel like we should do, and we say no to things that would actually bring us a lot of joy or fill up our cup so we can show up better to the things that other people expect us to be at. So I think it's first understanding what is an automatic yes that you're giving to something, because a yes to something is a no to something else. So even if you didn't necessarily have to say no to something, you have said no to something by saying yes to something else. And so just being aware of where your yeses are going and is it aligned with your values and how you want to spend your time? Like, could you delegate something? Could you just ditch something and not do it altogether, right?
Yeah.
And then doing that is a first step because it'll naturally free up some extra time that you could say yes, right? But there are, of course, going to be situations where we have to say no because we have overscheduled, overcommitted. We can't just say no. We've already said yes, and now we're obligated to do the thing, right? And I think in those instances, it's important to be able to show your kid that you're not saying no to them because you're trying to be mean or anything negative like that, and really explaining even the thought process of how you got here, why we don't have time, what other choices were made, looking at the calendar together. There is no white space for me to work that activity in. Something that happens to me a lot with my daughter, she's just like all the time. She'll ask me to do like six things in a row. Well, on the drive home, she's like, "Can we do this tonight?" I'm like, "Yeah, for sure we could do that, like coloring or whatever." And then in the next breath, she'll say, "Oh, can we go get ice cream?" And I'm like, Maybe. We'll see how much time we have." And then she shoots like five or six other requests off because she just is full of life. And I'm like, "Girl, we need to prioritize which of these things you want to do because when we get home, it will be this time. We have to eat dinner, do our reading, have a bath, and your bedtime is here, which means we have this much time.
Yeah.
What is going to be the thing that you choose? And it's a conversation about prioritization early on, which is hard even for adults to determine like what is the most important thing or what do I want to do the most? And I think I've just ingrained it in my kids for so long because of the work I do, but like they'll look at a clock and they'll look at a calendar and they'll be able to say like, "Oh, we don't have time for that," or "Oh, it's time to get ready because getting out the door takes 15 minutes." And so they can
Mm.
like it's possible that this can through osmosis and just like conversation and modeling, it can truly impact your kids in a way that they're able to be more cognizant of time when most of our little ones have like no concept of time, right? And it's a developmental thing too, and age appropriateness. But yeah, we can model it.
I love that. You've given us a lot of hope for some of us because so many people struggle, especially in the morning with the time thing. That
Yeah.
if you are doing it, start early, start young, and be consistent with it. It actually works. Your child will be keeping time on their own, and that just imagine if you didn't have to check every 5 minutes where your child is at, or have to threaten them every morning to get going.
Yeah.
Imagine not having to deal with that. It's just that alone, my shoulders just drop. So I think it's great. Yeah, you're so right. We're modeling it. If we're constantly panicking over time, that's what we're teaching them. Or if that's just one of the things that I worked with for behavioral changes with parents and children is if the only time they get your attention is when they're running you late, then you're teaching them to keep being late because that's how they get your attention. So how do you want them to get your through stressing you out or through having fun on the ride over to school, and singing and stuff like that. So this is where you want to put your energy. Thank you for sharing that. It is really important to teach them how to, okay, listen, there's only so many hours in a day. This is how much time. Which one do you want to choose?
Yeah,
So
we need to choose too, I think, and like understanding the reality of the season we're in because there is a real thing called toddler time. And they do not go on anyone's schedule, and it takes way longer than you think it will to do anything. Especially like I'm just thinking getting boots and coats and stuff on in the winter. We're transitioning now out of that season, but for Canadian parents, it always takes longer. And if you try, I learned this really early, if you try to rush the child, you will experience a meltdown yours or theirs or both, and getting through the arc of the tantrum and the arc of the meltdown will ultimately take you longer than if you had just slowed down
yeah,
and said, okay, we can take our time here. I will help you. I'll show you when I'm helping you so that we're working towards you being more independent.
yeah,
But sometimes you need to give in to the time it takes to do something rather than try to force it because ultimately you'll end up with more time. So
yeah.
yeah, it's a really interesting
It
thing.
It is, but when you experience it for the first time, then you get it. But yeah, a lot of
Yes.
the time we make it harder on ourselves to try to fight the time, whereas you just take those extra 30
Yeah.
seconds to
Yeah.
regulate the situation. Yeah, it does save you time in the long run. Although I could talk to you all day about this, but I'd like to pivot over to the work that you do. I know you have a few things that you offer for the parents. Can you talk to us about it a little bit and how you do help for people that are interested in working with you?
Yeah, thank you. The most fun thing that I have is a very DIY style. Doesn't cost a lot, doesn't take a lot of time, and it is a planner. It's called the Time Magic Planner, and I created it because I have a very robust framework on how I do my weekly planning. There's so much science behind why planning ahead works and why a week is the right amount of time. And there's a lot of, yeah, I can go into the science too if we feel like digging in there. But for me, I wanted to be able to offer people a way to do what I do because everyone's like, well, how do you do it? Like, you seem to have it all, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so here's how I do it. And it's like, it's 90 days. It's a seasonal planner. We don't look at the entire year. It's not dated. There's no pressure. If you miss a week, who cares? Very easy to implement because I walk you through the framework, but it gives you a physical thing to tie you into this idea of how we plan ahead, how we just take a look at what next week is bringing. Are we going to be over capacity? Is there some white space to work in self-care? Like, what does it really look like? And going through this process of planning, which has been super helpful. And I'm working. Some people are like, yeah, but I want the real like full year one. So I am going to do one for 2027 for like full year for those of you who like a planner like that. But this seasonal weekly planners has been really helpful. And the other way that I really love to work with people is through the Momentum membership. It is an online virtual sort of like come as you are membership where you can be there for 1 month or you can be there for 3 or a year. There's no minimum or maximum time, and we get together and use some accountability to help us stay on track. This is especially good for entrepreneurs or anyone with ADHD or like a non 9 to 5 lifestyle, stay at home mom, that type of thing, because we have 3 times a week we get together for co working. We basically hop on Zoom, we tell each other what we're going to be doing, We go on mute. We can keep your video on or off, but we sort of work alongside each other. And sometimes I have people who are like packing for a move or getting their trip documents ready because they're traveling to see family over the holidays. And some people are building their website. Like it doesn't matter what you're going to do with that time. Some people do their laundry, like we just come together. What are we going to do with this time? And then at the end, a quick check in. Hey, did we do it? We can celebrate each other because then you get that dopamine hit of like, yeah, I did that thing, you know? So we use body doubling concept for that. And then this membership also includes a weekly check in where I hop on one to one with people for 20 minutes. Like 20 minutes is such a drop in the hat, right? Everyone can find a 20-minute
Yeah.
pocket of time. And we do sort of this conversation of looking ahead. Well, what does your week look like? What are the priorities? What three things need to get done? Like, where are we going to fit that in? Let's work backwards. How do we do that? What do you need to support yourself this week? And in 20 minutes, people go from like overwhelmed and, oh my God, everything is wild to having a bit of a plan for the next couple days. And so being able to incorporate that into your week is really calming and buys you back way more time in your day and your schedule than the 20 minutes you spent doing it. So that's one of my favorite ways to walk people through some like real change.
I love that. That's a game changer.
Yeah.
We don't talk about body doubling enough. I think it's something that in the neurodivergent world we are very used to it.
Yeah.
But oh, just to say, yeah, I've heard of other places where yeah, you get together, you
Yeah.
bring whatever it is that I do that now with our girls' nights. We actually bring in whatever craft or project that we started that's been sitting in the corner somewhere for
Mhm.
months. We bring it in and we're going to finish it tonight as we're doing our girls' night. So those are such a great, and the fact that it's flexible, you're not committing to a specific time. I love that you're offering that for people to get things done. I love it. Oh,
Mhm.
I could take, I really could keep you on all day, but how can people reach you or where can they follow you if they wanted to see more of your work? I'll make sure to add that to the description as well.
Ah, thank you. My website's probably the easiest way. Everything links from there. So it's jillwright.ca. On on all the social media channels, I'm Energy and Hours. That's also the name of the podcast. And so you guys listening should also go over there and listen to the episode that we did where Danielle was a guest on my podcast because that was a really powerful, cool one too. And yeah, that's the
Yeah.
easiest place to start to learn and just sort of get a flavor of what I'm all about.
I love that. Yeah, that was fun. I was telling Jill that it's so different being on the other side of podcast and being a guest as opposed to a host. I was just having so much fun. But yeah, definitely have a look, follow because she has such amazing topics going on in that podcast that can help you a lot as well. So I'll be sure to add that to the description so people can follow you. I want to thank you so much, Jill. But put you on the spot and ask, is there any words of wisdom or anything you'd like to add that could be very helpful to the listeners?
I think trust yourself is the piece really that answers. It's like the key to everything. There's a lot of information out there and it can be overwhelming if you're constantly trying to find the right answer, the right thing, the right expert. You know yourself the best and you know your kid the best. And taking a few minutes just to get quiet and get honest and trust your instincts and your intuition is what will serve you the best, no matter what, if it's time management or whatever else. So that's what I would say.
I love that. That's so great. I love to hear that too. I usually ask, I don't know if you want to play along, but I do ask my guests at the end what they want to be when they grow up. Do you have anything that pops up in your mind?
I think for me, it's author. It's always been author, and I am an author. I do have a book, and I've got the planner, but I
Yeah.
still that would be my dream, like to be able to just full time be a writer.
I love that. Oh, and you have enough knowledge and experiences that you could have a whole series. I love that. Oh, we have to support Jill now to make sure she keeps coming up with her amazing books.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for playing along. You know, it's a strange question to ask adults, but I love it because it just pushes us to go further than just what we're doing right now. So thank you. Thank you so much. And for everybody else that are listening and watching, don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe to whichever channel you're listening or watching from. Don't forget to go and follow Jill as well. And until next time, stay safe, stay awesome, and we'll talk soon.